Well, hello. Thanks for coming back to check out another video. So, we are here today to do our second update, if I'm not mistaken, to the Pan Those Eyeshadows Project Pan. So before we get into this update, I do just want to quickly say Pan Those Eyeshadows was something that was created 4 or 5 years ago, like a long time now, by Alexi. I always have her linked in my description box since this idea did originate from her. Everyone has just kind of tweaked it and made it really into their own project pan, which I think makes this more exciting, that it was such a good idea that could be changed to like fit so many different people. Like, you know what I mean? I think you know what I mean. Anyway, I absolutely fell in love with how Laney from Makeup by Laney, I will leave her linked in my description box as well, decided to take this on this year. So she came up with a list of 100 prompts. You randomize a number, you get your prompt, and that is how you pick out your eyeshadow. I just absolutely love that. So of course, I'll also leave that Google Doc spreadsheet with the 100 prompts down in my description box for you guys in case you want to go and check it out. Now there are some duplicate prompts. So I know like Misty she took out all the duplicate shades. I think Ruth left them in. And other than those two lovely ladies, I do not know of anyone else that is participating along with these 100 prompts from Laney. So correct me if I'm wrong. If you are doing this, let me know and I'll add you to my description box. I believe that is all of the rambling. Also in the description box, like I'll leave my playlist, a copy of like how my rules, like how I want to do this, just in case this is your first video seeing this. But yeah, let's just get on into this update. Alright, so before we talk about the eyeshadows, the 4 that I've actually been working on within this project pan, let's talk about some bonus pans and pan percentage. So I only hit 2 bonus pans this month. First one comes from the Nabla Dreamy 2 palette. It's no surprise, it's just the matte cream shade Pantheon right here. Maybe if I bring it in, you can see, again, we are still filming at night because my body doesn't know when to sleep. But either way, I did end up hitting pan on this matte cream shade. Nobody is surprised that I was able to do that. And then from the Lorac Mega Pro 1 palette, I have actually hit a pan in this dark brown shade down here, Espresso. So if I bring that in, hopefully you can see it. So yeah, those are my only 2 bonus pans this month, but I have hit other pans throughout different palettes, but I can't show them to you because they're in other projects. So keep tuned for that. But yeah, as far as pan percentage goes, you're gonna see it on the screen. And I'll leave it in my description box too. I know that's just something that's like fun to look at, so I thought I would include that. I think I asked last time, did you want to see that? And I remember a few people saying like, yes, please include pan percentage. So anyway, I did it for the beginning of June, and so now we'll track this as like the beginning of July, even though I'm filming this a little bit early, that's okay. I don't really have a goal for like pan percentage. I think I'm sitting somewhere near the 5% mark. But again, you're seeing it on the screen, so I'm not quite sure off the top of my head. But yeah, I think it's just a fun number to look at. Let's just see how far we can go and how high we can get it at the end of the year. Maybe at the end of the year, like as we transition this into next year, I'll have a better idea of like if I actually want to put some type of number on that, like some type of goal. But for right now, I think it's just gonna be a fun little tidbit to look at. Okay, so I have 4 eyeshadows going on in this project pan at this time. So I did swatch them out on my hand here, like the color story. So this first shade is from the Persona Identity 1 palette. This is the shade Charming. This second shade is from the BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles palette, and it is the shade WeHo. The next one is from the BH Cosmetics Optimistic AF palette, and it is the shade Half Full. And then this bottom one is from the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette, and it is the shade Enigma. If the ring light or anything like that has washed this out, I will of course put up pictures over here for you guys just to make sure that this video still maintains some enjoyability even though we're struggling with lighting. But either way, really nice not cohesive, I don't know why I was about to say that. It's not really a cohesive color story, but I had a lot of fun playing with these colors this month. This Charming shade and the WeHo shade have been in since the beginning, since we started this, and then the Half Full and the Enigma shade got rolled in at our last update. So we will talk about them, and I will leave the prompts that the shadow corresponds to on the screen, as well as how many times I have used this shadow this month, like since we last talked, and how many total uses it has gotten in this project. So I'm waving around the Persona Identity palette. Let's talk about this one first. Like I said, it is the shade Charming, which is just a neutral matte brown shade. I will bring this in and hopefully you can maybe see that there is a little bit of a dip, a little bit more disturbance in this pan than when we first rolled it in, but no pan yet. And I knew that rolling this shadow in here, like I felt like this is going to be a long haul type of shadow. I just really wanted to add another pan into this palette, and that Charming shade is something that I can easily incorporate into a bunch of different looks, so I get quite a good bit of use out of it within the month. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that shade. Okay, so like I said, the shadow from this BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles palette is the WeHo shade, and that has also been rolled in since the introduction of this project pan, as well as Charming. And again, it's just one of those like great everyday, well not everyday, but it is a shadow that I could wear every day if I was wearing a lot of peaches, pinks, and things like that. It does go really nicely with browns. It's nice to use to blend out more orangey shades because it is like a more pastel peachy color. But if I bring this in, you guys can see no pan yet. I didn't expect this one to be super fast either, because if you're familiar with me, I am not a huge fan of like all pastel looks. So while this palette is really pretty, I come to this palette more for the shimmer shadows and then mainly to use it as a companion palette. So within my collection as a whole, this palette really hasn't gotten a lot of love until now in this project pan. So I think that obtaining the pan in that WeHo shade is still quite a ways away, but I'm happy to be working on this, exploring this palette more, and figuring out new ways to enjoy it and love it. Okay, so our third eyeshadow to talk about, like I said, comes from the Optimistic AF palette, which is also from BH Cosmetics, and I have gotten some of that Enigma shade on the outside packaging of this, which is the blue shadow that we are working on. It's a very messy shade, but anyway, if I open this up, this is such a pretty fall-esque color story, and I think the prompt for this palette was, or for this eyeshadow was, reminds you of fall. So I did pick the orange shade Half Full, like we already talked about, but just the palette as a whole really gives me fall vibes. I have absolutely loved pulling this palette out, playing around with it. I really enjoy pairing the matte yellow and the matte orange together, and I've really enjoyed this shimmery, like golden peachy shade down here, LOL. But if I bring this into you, hopefully you can see there's not really much difference in this Half Full shade. BH Cosmetics matte formula, at least like their old school formula, I don't know since Makeup Revolution has bought them out. But this type of formula, it's not on the powdery side, like you don't get a lot of kick up, but they're not super tightly pressed. They're like somewhere in the middle. So I don't find that I hit pan on the matte shadows super easy or the shimmer shadows. So it does take a little bit of time. I think overall this past month since I've last updated you guys, I was able to reach for every eyeshadow at least 4 times, if not more. And I think that's a pretty good goal, especially when it's such a disjointed color story, in my opinion. I do want to quickly point out to you that today's eye look, the orange that you are seeing is this Half Full shade, and then the darker blue that is in my outer corner is actually the Enigma shade from the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. So I really did enjoy, this is the first time I did this look, like pairing oranges and blues together. I had a lot of fun doing this look, and surprisingly, I like it a lot more than I thought I would. So just fun to know. It's a look that I could foresee myself doing again, like throughout like the life of these two shadows within this project pan. But either way, Enigma here is this shadow right down here from the Metropolis palette. So it does in the pan look like it's just going to be a black eyeshadow, but it's not. As you can see on the swatch, it's a very dark blue shade. It is very pretty. It is a cream to powder shade, so that's why there's like a little bit of like a weird kind of, I don't know, it almost looks like I dug my nail in there, but I haven't. Since it's a cream to powder shadow, it's like a little bit more malleable. Honestly, I really thought I would have pan on this already, because the last time I used a cream to powder shadow from a Natasha Denona palette, it only took like 7 or 8 uses, and I think I'm right there at that 7 or 8 use mark with this shade. But since it is such a deep dark blue shade, I feel like I probably used less of it than I do some of those other lighter cream to powder shadows that I have already hit pan on. I am starting to explore more of this side of the palette. That was like a soft goal that I had for this, for this being in here, because obviously I think you can tell most of my use comes from the greens and the yellows of this palette. So as you can see, we did not hit pan on any eyeshadows, But what I want to do is at the introduction, I said, hey, I'm going to roll in 4 eyeshadows, but if I ever feel like it, like maybe we'll up that to 6. I think we're going to up it to 5 today, just because rolling in an eyeshadow is always the fun part of this. So will we always stay at 5? Will we eventually move up to 6? Will we go back down to 4? I don't know. We're all just along for the ride here together. But before we randomize a number to pick out our new prompt, let me quickly go over some looks that I did this past month using these 4 eyeshadows for you guys. Okay, I have scooted over. I'm looking down at my phone, looking at the same picture that you are going to be seeing on the screen. So this was like a really pretty monochromatic blue eye look that I did, and I ended up loving it. I'm also not a huge fan of like straight on monochromatic eye looks. I just like to have different colors, but I really did enjoy this. So obviously I paired the Enigma shade from the Metropolis palette with some of the blue shades from the Club Nebula palette. I always leave the shade names on the screen, like on the picture, so that you guys can know what I'm talking about. But just to make this a little bit quicker, like I'm just gonna briefly go over each eye look. But yeah, I really did enjoy doing this full-on like monochromatic blue look. Okay, so this next look was a really fun one too. This was inspired by my lovely soul sister, Laura. I will leave her link down below, and her June BYOP palette like building video, because in that video she created this eye look, or used like very similar shades. Like I was just super inspired by her. So I wanted to recreate this very fun, summery, bright pink and yellow eye look, and I think that I really did enjoy this. I could foresee myself doing this look again. So this one from this project pan, it uses the WeHo shade from the BH Cosmetics palette, the Lost in Los Angeles one, as well as the Half Full shade from the Optimistic AF palette. And I think that it's kind of interesting that, I don't know in the picture if you can really tell, I think the dark pink of this look kind of overtakes those more peachy orangey matte shades. But in real life, you could definitely tell that it went from pink to like orange, and then you had like a yellow peachy golden lid shade. Okay, so then this last eye look that I will show you, again, using the Enigma shadow from the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette, I really tried to focus in on that shade because, like I said, I thought I could hit pan on it relatively easy. But either way, I have absolutely fallen in love with pairing those dark blue shades like that with lighter purples. So I pulled out my Glam Light Michaela palette, the Metropolis palette, obviously, and then I did use the Adept Cosmetics Heather Austin palette as well to create this eye look. Had a lot of fun with this. The blue I was a little bit nervous about too, like am I gonna like this as much in the summer months, because blue to me is very much more like a wintry kind of eyeshadow, but I really had a lot of fun playing with that shadow, and so I'm really glad that I did end up rolling that in last time. Okay, so I have Pretty Random pulled up on my phone. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it when I actually randomize a number, so we're just gonna take my word for it, okay? So I'm sitting here and I'm like, ooh, do I wanna roll in just 1, or do I just wanna kick it up to 6 and just have fun? There's part of me that says 6, because there's like a weird hang up in my brain where it can't be an odd number, even though 5 is the most even odd number that there is, and don't fight me on that. Let's just do 2. Let's just roll 2 prompts and see what we get. Let's just have fun, right? Because this project pan for me is a little bit more laid back than like Project Level Up, or if I were to do like a pan that palette or anything like that. So either way, enough rambling, Haley. You're stalling. 32 and 10. Okay, so I have highlighted off the prompts that we have already worked on because like I said in the introduction video, my goal is to just work on like complete all 100 prompts. So let me make sure that these aren't prompts that we've already had. If they're not, then I will just go and pick out my shadows that match to them and come back and talk to you about that. Okay, so I'm really glad that we rolled in 2 prompts because they were 2 really good prompts. And then I get to bring in some shimmer eyeshadows into this project because I don't know if you noticed, but my color story was an all matte color story. So either way, prompt 32 I think was the first one that we randomized, and that is a duochrome eyeshadow. Now before I show this to you, just let me preface this with, I'm a little terrible at like, is it just shifty? Is that a nice sheen? Is it actually duochrome? Is it a multi-chrome? To me, it's just kind of an umbrella term, okay? So anyway, any excuse to pull out this palette, I am going to. So this is the Angelica Nyqvist and Uden's Eye palette, the Hella palette that she did this year with them. I just absolutely love the color story of this. This palette has gotten so much use from me since I brought it into my collection. And I'm excited because I get to pick out my most favorite eyeshadow from within this palette. So it's going to be the River shade down here. If I bring it in, I think it looks pretty dark, like in the pan, but it is this really pretty, almost like blue to purple, and I feel like it has a little bit of green to it. Like, it's just so stunning. I absolutely love wearing this as an all over lid shade and doing like a really colorful like crease with it. This does have a little bit of a dip on it already, but I have heard from other people that these eyeshadows are deep and they are a little bit harder to hit pan on, so we'll see how many uses it takes on this one. Okay, so then prompt number 10 was your newest purchase. So I'm gonna roll in this Be Perfect Carnival 3 Love Tahiti palette that Stacey Marie, a makeup artist, did in collaboration with Be Perfect. I'm not really familiar with Stacey Marie, but ooh, did she not make a really nice palette. So it was between this and the Antidote palette, which she also did in collaboration with them. However, I went with this one because it gives me some more like summery vibes. And like I said, I did want to pull in another shimmer shadow into this project pan. So I have dipped into this palette twice now, and the shade that I just cannot stop using, like I had to use it in both of the looks that I did, is this Pearl shade up here. So it's just kind of like an unassuming pink shadow, but I just absolutely love it. I have forgotten how much I love pink lid shades, either with colorful looks or in a neutral look. Like, it is just my jam. So let's take a look at our new color story as we sit here right now. So this is that River shade from the Hella palette in there. And then this is the Pearl shade from the Be Perfect palette. So I feel like this is much more cohesive now in adding in these two shimmer eyeshadows. Like, I feel like River is gonna pair really nicely with Enigma, and everything can really go with Charming because it is just like a neutral brown shade. But I also feel like Pearl can go really nicely with Enigma, WeHo, and I like doing like pinks and oranges together. I think that that's kind of fun and interesting. So yeah, really happy, really like just reignited and inspired, because I'm not gonna lie, even though I said I want this to be like a little more laid back, like it's okay if I don't have pan every month for you guys, I still like want to hit pan. So I was a little disappointed in myself that I wasn't able to do it, but I think we fixed that by rolling in these two new prompts. So that is everything that I have for you in this update. Thank you so much for sticking around and making it to the end. If you are doing pan those eyeshadows down below, please let me know, because I absolutely love to gobble up anything eyeshadow palette related. Let me know, how many pans did you hit in the month of June, if you're tracking it. I will leave in the description box how many total pans I did hit in this month, even though I could only show you 2 bonus pans. So I hope you're having a good day, a good night, or a good whatever, and I will catch you guys in the next one.